So last year we spent a few classes looking at parts of a book called The World Unseen. And in particular, what we were reading about was this guy's post-death experience. The book was written as a guy channeled a spirit who passed on, and the author's writing down, well, this is what happened in the next life. And that's really what it is. He's like, well, this is, woke up, and this is what happened. And for those of you in those classes, you might recall that the guy says, well, I found these libraries in the next life. There were scientists, people making textiles, artists, musicians, all sorts of different things that people were creating. He also said that things don't wear out in the next life, so there was no need for repairmen. You can think yourself from one place to the other, so there's no need for cars, trains, planes. So you don't need people to design them, people to fix them, people to operate them. You don't need people issuing licenses for these things. You don't need traffic enforcement people. You can't kill yourself or anybody else. So there probably isn't any need for the whole safety industry. I mean, what's the point of a hard hat? You don't need steel-tip boots. You can manifest whatever you want just by thinking about it, so you don't need luggage. You can travel really light. So then we go, well, you need salespeople. You need advertisers. And there's an awful lot of jobs you can kind of just go through and go, well, that job just might not exist in the next life. And yet, in heaven and hell, it's number 387, it's in your service, we have this number that just really sticks with me. It says it's impossible to enumerate the employments in the heavens, still less to describe them in detail, but something may be said about them in a general way. For they are numberless, and they vary in accordance with the functions of the societies. Each society has a peculiar function, should say particular as far as I'm concerned, but particular function. For as societies are distinct in accordance with the goods, so they are distinct in accordance with uses, because with all in the heavens, goods are goods in act, which are uses. And as you might gather from the way I'm setting this up, what really sticks with me is this whole thing that the jobs are numberless, more than you can count. Now, I had some fun looking up, how many jobs does the government think exist? How many do they put a number on? And they're actually surprisingly saying, well, there's a lot of jobs and we can't count them all, but they divide them into 10 categories. There's business and finances a category, working for the government's category, like parks and recreation's a category. They keep on going. Healthcare, does heaven need that category? I don't know. But Swedenborg in number 388 says, in the heavens on earth there are many forms of service, for there are ecclesiastical affairs, so one, civil affairs and domestic affairs. So he's giving us 3 categories, the government gives us 10, and I don't think those are the only 3 categories. I think he's giving those as a starting point. I think what he's trying to say is that there are things in the next life that are similar to this, saying that in the next life, yes, you've got government affairs and you've got church affairs, but at least for me, I feel like I've suffered from a lack of vision when it comes to jobs in the next life. I get those 3 categories and I can do a good job of eliminating things, but what are these other jobs that angels do? But as we were sitting out there in the desert, admiring the stars in the sky, and you just go, well, there's a lot of stars out there. And I had downloaded one of those Stargazer apps before we went out there, and I start just pinging on, well, what's that one? Oh, okay, well, that's not a star, that's Jupiter. All right, well, when you ping on this one, oh, that's not a star, it's a galaxy. And you go, oh, how far away is that? Oh, it's a long ways away from here. You start to get this this picture of just how vast the universe is. And I guess I felt for me that for a brief moment my mind opened up to the possibilities, and that there's just so much possibility that is beyond my imagination. You know, I really do buy into the idea that there's life just throughout the universe. I think there's life everywhere, even if we can't see it and haven't discovered it. The universe is full of it. And so, if it's full of life, and there's all these planets, there has to be a whole lot of things that we haven't imagined yet. And I was imagining this communication between societies. You know, you talk about government affairs. Well, one of the government jobs is diplomacy. You know, sending people. You have a consulate in another country, and they deal saying, "Oh, you got all these different communities out there. Maybe there's a lot of angel diplomats out there." But I really couldn't find that job description in the Bible. Didn't seem to be one that was laid out for us in heaven and hell either. So I decided I took this week to look through scriptures and see, well, what is there? What do we have in the scriptural stories as to what it is that angels actually do? Now, the first time we encounter an angel in the scriptures is the story of Abram and Hagar. And Hagar has the fortune or misfortune of encountering an angel twice. But the first time it happens as a setup with Abram and Sarai can't have a child. Sarai's not happy about this, of course, but she says to Abram, "You can have a child with my handmaid Hagar, and that way you can have a child to inherit your stuff." Now, Abram should have known better. This was a bad idea. Anytime your wife says to you, "Yeah, you can sleep with this other woman," he should have known that this was not going to turn out well. But when we get from Abram, you know, we look at the Abram history, it's like, well, what is he? He is obedient. He does what he's told. You know, the Lord says, leave your family and friends behind, leave the way you are and go to Canaan. He does it. Later, you know, he's got a son. The Lord says, kill your son. And he's like, well, all right, if you say so. He doesn't obviously do that in the end, but you know, that's Abram's life, his obedience. So when Sarai says, you know, have an heir with her, he says, okay. Well, as you can imagine, this doesn't go well with Sarai. She becomes jealous, and she treats Hagar terribly. And so Sarai wants to get rid of Hagar and kick her out. Abram says, you know, do with her whatever you want. She's your handmaid. It's fine. So Hagar's kicked out, she's not kicked out, she's running away from Sarai, and we have this encounter with an angel in Genesis chapter 16. It says, now the angel of the Lord found her, Hagar, by a spring of water in the wilderness, and by the spring on the way to shore. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from, and where are you going? She says, I am fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai. The angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hand. And the angel said to her, I will multiply your descendants exceedingly, so that they shall not be counted for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. He shall be a wild man, and his hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, you are the God who sees. For she said, have I also here seen him who sees me? Therefore the well was called Beer Lahai Roi. Observe, it is between Kadesh and Bered. As Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son whom Hagar bore Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. So that's your story. And notice what the angel does. He starts off with a question. Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from and where are you going? He knows who she is, and he knows where she came from and where he's going, but he still asks the question. And what Swedenborg writes in Arcana Celestia is that since people believe that since we believe that we do things in secret, that our actions are actually hidden from God, that the scriptures actually play to this appearance. This is why the angels ask questions that they know the answer to, because they think that it's been done in secret. We also get from the internal sense of the story is that the angel represents an interior truth. But because Hagar is in the wilderness, it's a truth that doesn't have any life to it. Nothing's been done with it. It's a knowledge she's got that's higher, but hasn't actually been manifested into life. And so the angel, this truth, is informing her what she should do. One of the interesting bits is that we find that Hagar is actually an Egyptian woman. And so we know from other places in Scripture that Egypt has a representation of worldly knowledge, factual knowledge. That's what Hagar represents as well. So start to put these pieces together, and we have the angel coming to Hagar saying, don't trust yourself. It's Hagar being the worldly knowledge saying, don't trust worldly knowledge. It's kind of like an Adam and Eve type story. Yep, this is what you are. You're in the wilderness. You've got this higher knowledge. You're not using it. Don't trust your own way on this. Go back to Abram and Sarai. So what's the angel doing? Well, he's giving a message. Elevate your ways a bit. And kind of rang for me as I was playing the service of the song of When Trials Come. What's in there, that line of, I turn to wisdom, not my own, for every battle. And that's what the angel's saying. Turn to wisdom that's not your own. Well, whose wisdom is it? Of course, it's the Lord's wisdom. But in this case, it's given to us by the angel. Now, those of you who are into language and stuff like that, you might know that the word angel comes from the Greek word angelos, which means messenger or one who announces. And it makes sense. They call them angels because that's what they're doing. They're announcing, they're informing, they're giving a message. And the Lord's wisdom here in this case is, submit yourself to something higher. And this aligns to what Secrets of Heaven says about angelic delight. I came across this number 454, and it's in your service, so you can follow along with this. It says, for angels never feel happier than when they are informing and teaching spirits that stream in from the world, or when they are ministering to men and are preventing the evil spirits with them overstepping the mark, and inspiring men with what is good, also when they are rousing the dead into the life of eternity, and after that introducing such souls into heaven if they are kept. The happiness they find in all this is more than possibly can be described. Angels in this way are the images of the Lord. They love their neighbor more than themselves, and this is what makes heaven, heaven. Consequently, angelic happiness consists in use, stems from its use, and is proportionate to use, that is, to the good deeds of love and charity. So, again, doing my research for this topic this week, I noticed that Swedenborg refers back to this number a lot. You start looking up passages about angels, and it's going to say, for more about angelic delight, refer to AC 454. In the Heaven and Hell number, the 387 that we read to open up the readings, the heading for that number is angelic employments. And the first footnote in that number is, go see AC 454 to learn about angelic delight. So, my point is that this 454 is a big number in Swedenborg's eyes. This is not just a throwaway or a piece of obscurity. This is a big deal as to what angels feel really happy about doing. So, think about the stories, the larger range of stories in the Bible. that we see angels in? Is 454 reflected in those stories? Well, we have the Sodom and Gomorrah story. We have angels there. We could say that they're preventing evil men from overstepping the mark. That's what 454 says. They're ministering to men and preventing evil spirits with them from overstepping the mark. And in Sodom and Gomorrah, they're preventing these bad guys from destroying Lot and his family. We have the story of Balaam and the donkey. Balaam's riding a donkey. He's been hired to curse the children of Israel. The donkey's trying to avoid this angel that the donkey sees, but Balaam doesn't. And finally, the angel reveals himself to Balaam. Well, what does the angel do? He gives Balaam a message. He says, I've come to oppose you, Balaam, but then he says, go ahead as you planned, but only do what I say to do. Don't only say what I tell you to say. Again, the angel is preventing Balaam from overstepping the mark. Story of Gideon, we have an angel there. Gideon's hiding from the Midianites. What does the angel do? Well, he brings the message to Gideon. He says, Gideon, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. He's inspiring Gideon with what is good. The Lord and his angels appear to many other prophets in the second half of the Old Testament, and that's usually what they're doing. They're inspiring them to do something good, calling them to something higher. And if you get in the New Testament, of course, the Christmas story is just absolutely chockers full of angels. They're just everywhere, right? Messages of conception, messages of what the child's going to be doing, what the child's going to be named, dreams about to Joseph, and dreams to the wise men about, go do this, don't do that, go over here, avoid this, right? They're informing, they're teaching, they're ministering, preventing, inspiring, and introducing all the things that 454 was saying. When I start putting this all together, well, what is it that the angels do? They are the agents of the Lord's divine providence. Isn't that what they're doing? The Lord says that, he's in charge of everything, but that a big plan is worthless without the attention to detail. If you don't have somebody attending the details, the big plan can actually happen. And so the Lord says, I give the joy to people of the joy of use, and he gives the angels the joy of being useful. And so here they are attending to God's plans. Mary, you're going to have a child. Joseph, marry her, she's okay. Wise men, go somewhere else. Gideon, get up and fight. All these angels, they're doing things. And they are these agents of providence. We're told also in the writings that each one of us has two good spirits and two bad spirits with us. The spirits aren't the same thing as angels, but they're people who have passed on. So if you've got 7 billion people in the world and each of us have 2 apiece, well, that's 28 billion spirits right there. That's keeping a lot of people employed. You have heaven and hell, and the world says that there's, the current estimate is that 107 billion people have ever lived, and so then you divide those up into heavens and hells, and you've got a lot of people doing inspiring and bringing messages, teaching, ministering, preventing, all these kind of things. Again, it's probably kind of limiting, because the passage says that they're happiest when they're doing those things, but I think we have other things that they do too. They attend to gardens, and they attend to making the textiles and doing the things that they like to do. But we have those teachings about the grand man as well, about how angels have functions that correspond to functions in the body. So you have heart spirits that are, heart's a pump, basically what it is. So we have angels that are pumping out truth into their realms. You have lung spirits, you've got toenail spirits, you've got hair spirits, you've got angels doing all these different functions, and they have lots to do. Kind of wonder about how many of these functions of the body could you categorize as delivering a message? Is that what your body is doing? It's just communicating with itself? Ancient people saw them just the angels as messengers, but I think there's more to it, and I think there's more of this bigger plan. As I said earlier, my trouble has been a lack of imagination when it comes to what it is that the angels do. But I encourage you to try to put some imagination to it. Think about what it is that the angels could do that we don't do here. Because the whole point of being an angel is being happy with what it is that you do, surrounded with other good people doing something very similar. I think the stuff we're given here in the scriptures is a glimpse into what they do, and a glimpse into how they operate, and that they are part of the Lord's plan. So when we think of people we know who've passed away in our lives and what they're doing in the next life, well, just try to have some imagination as to how they're doing something in a way that's higher than what would be here. And if you have any great ideas on this, I would love to hear them. Amen.